Hey everyone, it's Dr. Kinar here. Welcome to the Dentrepreneurs TV show. It is in this show that we interview entrepreneurs and guests so they can share tips, wisdoms, strategies to help you exponentially grow your practice. So today I'm joined by none other than the famous Dr. Harry Marget. And Dr. Harry Marget, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Kinar. I'm surprised and honoured to be called famous by someone as famous as you.
Not at all, not at all. I mean, I really have high respect. I admire what you have contributed to this industry, and you've built a lot in yourselves. Dr. Harry Marget, why don't we start by you telling us, our audience, who you are and what has brought you to this level and stage in life?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to. I'm very honoured, as I say, to be here with someone as successful as your good self. I started my journey in 1972. I graduated from Adelaide University, and I didn't stay a day in Adelaide longer than I could, because there was no future there. Right. I moved to Melbourne, and on Boxing Day 1972 I started working for a rather notorious practice in Hawthorn for a Dr. Noel Campbell, who recently, and very recently, got debarred from being a dentist. Yes. But it was a good journey. Yes. From there I went and did a master's degree in endodontics, a complete and utter waste of time because I never did a day's master's endodontics at all.
Right.
And then from there I started working for two dentists, one in Collins Street, one in Flinders Street, where they got me doing all of the, shall we say, after-run dentistry, things they didn't want to do. But it were good lessons in how not to be a dentist and to become a businessman. From there, I decided to buy my first practice, and that's when the journey really began.
Yeah, and when was that? When was the first practice?
First practice was 1974, okay? Right. And it was a rundown practice. It was run by a guy called Dr. Lawrence Gajero, a lovely man. Went to see him, and he was working away in a one-room practice with a dental drill that did that. So he was doing very large occlusal cavities for £1 in those, $1, sorry, in those days, $1. And he had a waiting room full of 30 people, some of them standing. That was how it was in those days. There were no chairs. Yeah. And his sterilisation method was to do an extraction, run their faucets under hot water, and then use them again. So that was that sort of practice.
At that time, right.
That was how it was in those days. So that was my first practice. I started there in 1974. And within 3 months, I'd hired my first assistant. Yes. And people were saying to me, "What, are you crazy, hiring assistants? Assistants don't make any money. They're a waste of time, waste of money." But as you know, and I know, training, expertise, putting money, investing in people makes a big difference. So by the end of the year, I had 3 dental assistants working there. And then I began a journey of travelling overseas to understand big business in dentistry, big business in dentistry. From there, I went to Canada, where I went to see a 100-chair practice in Toronto. That was an amazing experience. When I got there, all of the staff, I mean everyone, was walking around with a sniffly nose. And I said, "That's strange, everybody got a cold." They were all on cocaine.
Wow.
They were all sniffing cocaine. That's how it was back in the 70s and the 80s. But that taught me something amazing. That taught me how, when you want to actually build a business out of dentistry, you need to increase your volume and training to build a business structure, not about doing fillings and crowns, but about training people to become interested business people. And that's when I also saw capitation plans. I learnt about periodontal surgery. I learned about orthodontics. But the biggest lesson I learnt then was how to be in the business of dentistry.
Right.
When I came back to Australia, I then bought another 6 practices. Huge mistake, right? One by one by one. I had a fantastic ego, massive turnover, no profit. And then I decided to do something really interesting. I started what was called unionised dentistry. So I started actually going to the Builders Workers Federation, Teachers Union. I said, "Look, you send all your membership to me, we'll charge them this fee and we'll do their dentistry." The business went from 1 practice to 6 to 26 practices nationally. We had a massive turnover, huge profit margin, but we had one problem: we couldn't advertise. So I found a system where we could advertise called friendly societies. And I started my first one. And by being a friendly society, you could advertise. So the business went exponential after that. And from then on, it was just got bigger and bigger and bigger until I suddenly realised, this is silly. You know, I've got 6 sets of overheads, 6 sets of headaches. I need 1 set of headaches and 1 set of overheads. Sold everything, concentrated on East Bentley Dental Group, built it to its current size.
That's an excellent story you've shared there. And one of the things I just picked up on there is that a lot of dentists nowadays are into this impression that they need to own multiple practices. And what I've seen that as I've been in this journey of coaching a lot of practices is that they lose focus on building one practices and exponentially growing it. So their hands are everywhere in the practice. Stress levels are really high. It's not that most of these practices are profitable, and there's almost like an illusion in our industry that owning multiple practices is the way to go. So what are your thoughts finally on that?
Oh, I couldn't agree more with you. There is nothing further from the truth that owning multiple practices is better. It's just crazy. You have 6 sets of overheads. You cannot focus. You cannot train people. You cannot be everywhere and everything to everyone. And the problem, Kinar, is that all dentists, with the exception of you and I, of course, all dentists think that they are the best at every single procedure that they do. They think no one else can do it better than me. So not only do they complicate the matter by not giving the work to the assistants, they say, no, I've got to do the premium work, they've got to do the other work. They don't let the practice grow, as you say, exponentially by investing in their people, right?
Yes.
The overheads keep multiplying, the issues become bigger, and as you know, the phone calls that you get and that I get from people crying on the phone, they can't do it. The multiple practice idea is dead and gone. Even the corporates are finding that they can't own multiple practices and run them properly.
So yeah, well, Dr. Harry, thank you for sharing that. As the audience may hear that, be careful when you're considering opening multiple practices. Dr. Harry and I both agree that it's sometimes wise just to focus on what you already have and first build it and maximize it, and then perhaps think about opening another practice or two. But opening multiple practices can lead to a disaster. So just be careful. That's our opinions on this. The next question I wanted to ask you, Dr. Harry, was you did mention that one of the things was advertising.
Yes.
You did, right?
Yes.
So I want to jump into that topic of what we call marketing nowadays, right? Could you share a few tips for our audience? What really do you think works nowadays, especially, and what's been working for you? So
nowadays, there's one thing which stands out head and shoulders above everything else.
Yes.
Radio advertising. Okay?
Radio advertising.
Radio advertising stands head and shoulders. If you would have told me 25, 30 years ago, radio advertising, it wasn't as big then as it is now, I would have said to you, no, not a chance. Because what was big then was television. Today, radio advertising can amazing. The return on investment is so amazing, you just cannot believe. We spend a considerable amount of money on radio advertising, but it is resulting in, and I kid you not, I have the numbers, 16 to 17 new patients a day.
Wow.
A day, not a week, not a month, a day. Okay, that's on a quiet day. And on a busy day, it can be up to 20 to 25 patients a day. So radio advertising works. What works in marketing is a different situation. To me, everything is marketing. Everything. Yes. No matter how you look, what you say, how you present. But marketing is about everything else. Okay? Yes. Why do people go into BMW or Rolls-Royce and buy a car? Because they know what they're buying. Why? Because the marketer has done his job effectively. Yes. We as dentists don't do that job. We don't market what we are selling. We think that people are coming to us because we're dentists. We need to inform the public about what we're doing. Marketing is separate to advertising, and what stands out is radio advertising.
Isn't that amazing? One of the things, I mean, that's some new piece of information for myself as well. And I'm in my practice, we are huge in marketing. One of my belief system is, of course, that all dentists should have a great website.
Yes.
Because whatever you market, whether it's radio advertising, whether it's through Google, whether it's social media, Facebook, Instagram, eventually the traffic comes to your website. And what I've noticed and discussing with a lot of dentists and actually taking the time to go over their websites, there are a lot of dentists with average or substandard websites. One of my famous quotes, I usually, when I'm having a chat with dentists, I say to them, your internet home is your website. You will get more guests there than your real home. So just the two big things about having a great website is not just the look and feel, but what we call influencing copy.
Sure.
So whenever a lead comes, why should they choose you from the page they're reading? Whether it's through implants, cosmetics, whatever it is. So one of the pieces of advice I wanted to share with the audience was, please get your websites audited, because it's the most important thing. And what I really took away from Dr. Harry today is radio advertising, and perhaps we should all look into that. And someone like Dr. Harry has been doing it for a while and getting 15 to 25 new patients a day, that's amazing. For particularly for me, the two things that has really worked is Google AdWords and of course leading them to my website, having an amazing website. So we get about 15 to 20 new patients a day ourselves.
Fantastic.
So this would be great. This is just some great knowledge
You
and
could
tips
get
here.
30.
Yeah, great knowledge and tips.
Yeah.
So one of the next question I wanted to go into this was actually, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Harry, that 80% of our practice is actually run and operated by our team, right? We generally, as dentists, we go in there, we do our work, kind of look around, and then we come back home. But everything to do with greeting the client, picking the phones up, treatment coordination, everything is to do with the team. So I first wanted to start with asking your advice on how do we build a great team culture?
Excellent question, excellent question. I know you share my views on this, so what I'm going to repeat now will probably be synonymous with how you believe.
Sure.
But let's go there. It started with me by understanding that you could not put people in charge of a business who were dental nurses.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work. Their training is to hand you materials and equipment. So what did I do? How do you build a team? I decided I needed to have somebody in my business who was out of industry. So I went looking for someone who had been in industry. And how did I do that? We said, we are looking for a business manager, because too many dentists look for a practice manager. What is a practice manager? She manages a practice. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So I advertised for a business manager. The first person to come in was a person who had embezzled money from a big firm. And I said, what are you doing here for this interview? He said, well, I just thought I'd give you a try and see if you'd hire me, okay? So I like that, okay?
Yes.
But then a minute later, a lady came in wearing a beautiful suit. She was elegantly groomed. She had beautiful red lipstick on, beautiful earrings, lovely eyeshadow. I didn't take a really good look. I mean, I did really, you know. Anyway, she walked in and she sat down. You know what she said to me? She said, have you hired anybody yet for your business manager role? I said, no, not yet. She said, well, you're hiring me. I said, yes, you're right, I am. I said, what are you going to do? She said, I'm going to show you how to run this business effectively. Her background was in mole scan. She had been in industry. She had been an industry leader in the mole scanning industry, and that's who came in. From there, I decided I needed to get an HR manager. Right. Why should I, as a dentist with simple skills, fixing teeth, know how to hire people? So I went and got someone who had been in the business of hiring people. And not only had she hired people, she'd worked for IOOF, which is a big health fund down here. Okay. She had also worked for NIB. So she had hired people at executive level. Then I got those two people together with a third person with some dental knowledge, and I said, okay, let us now strategize. We did this over a weekend. We went from Friday to Sunday. Let us now put together a strategy for building a business in dentistry with these people. That's what we did. We took non-dental people and converted them into dental people with business industry knowledge. That's how you do that. And then you build the team by training, as you know. Okay?
Yeah.
The dentists that consult me, and I'm sure you, that don't want to do the training or don't want to spend the money on the training, they are still sitting in their surgeries today drinking coffee and wondering where the next patient's coming from. Yeah. Training, and using and advancing people's skills by sending overseas to seminars where industry teaches business.
Fantastic. Isn't that amazing? One of the greatest takeaway from that I personally got was that not looking for particularly practice managers, but business managers.
Yes.
And HR managers and people who will actually help you grow the business. So the mindset we have as dentists, or rather dentrepreneurs, is we need to kind of mold our thinking into thinking what, as Dr. Harry shared, think about hiring business managers, HR managers who can help you then grow the business. But on that note, Dr. Harry, I also wanted to add, what about the dentist himself? I mean, I wanted to touch on the subject of leadership.
Yeah.
We all graduate from dental school, but we're never taught business, leadership, or communication skills. And this is my forte, and I absolutely love training and teaching dentists on this. But I wanted your opinion on the subject of leadership itself. Could you share something on that?
Absolutely, with great pleasure. Well, I didn't know how to be a leader either. So when I graduated, one of the first courses I ever did in 1973 in Carlton was getting in touch with your feminine side.
Right, okay.
It was a one-year course, where they taught you how to get in touch with the feminine side, but not only because as a male, but it taught you how you have to advance the theory of talking to women. Let's think about it. How many people do we have in our practices who are women? 99%, okay? So with leadership, I then took an acting course. I went to acting school for 2 years to learn how to be dramatic.
Yes.
And further, I went and I did hypnosis training at the Royal Melbourne Hospital.
Beautiful.
And all of those things, and you of course have done a wonderful course in, your training is in...
I just did a leadership seminar 2 weeks
yeah,
ago.
yeah,
Yes.
precisely. And you've also got a background in
NLP,
NLP,
hypnosis,
etc.
yeah.
So you know. So what I did is I invested heavily in understanding leadership. Now, having spent 2 years in the army was another good experience, okay?
Right.
Because there you get taught how to follow orders and do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do, you know?
Right.
Go over there and jump in that pit that's full of alligators. Well, you've got to learn how to do that sometimes.
Yes.
So the leadership training was something which I just kept on learning. I would go to America, to New York. I wouldn't go and speak to dentists. I'd go and speak to leading stockbrokers, bankers. I would go and speak to people in industry, in uranium mining, in
Right.
shipping, right? And I'd understand, how do you advance a business by being a leader? And how do you become a leader? You lead by example, and you lead by stature, example, and statuesqueness, which means, how do you present yourself? How do you come into a room? How do you walk into a room? If we walk into a room, Dr. Kinar, and we see people standing there like, hello, how are you? Do you want to talk to them? I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
You walk into a room, you see people sitting there like that, oh, I'd like to talk to you.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
leadership became something that I didn't go to dentists to learn.
Yes.
I didn't go to any dental seminars anywhere to learn that. I went to talk to industry leaders, people who were like, a variation of Tony Robbins, etc.
Yes.
Okay? I'd like your good self. You do the
Yes.
same. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for
yeah.
that. Excellent. I like that last point where you say you have to show up
Yeah.
every
and
single
be
day.
there and
And
be
be there.
present.
And be
yeah.
present.
Yeah.
So leadership is a very important part of running a practice, a successful practice, because people do look up to you at the end of the day, because you're a practice owner. And it's important, once again, I wanted to stress on this, that dental practice owners, and even just dentists in general, need to go and train themselves into understanding what leadership means. In my opinion, Dr. Harry, leadership is eventually building what we call a character.
Oh.
A character. And
You talk about it in your book.
I do talk about that in my book, and we'll talk about it a bit later about
Sure.
the book. But yes, I believe in these 3 words called just the ability to be humble, the ability to be hungry for growth and appetite for learning and evolving, and then the ability to hustle forward, which is take execution and build your practice so that you can help and do some greater good in the community.
And a sense of humour helps as
And
well.
a sense of humor, absolutely, absolutely. So, Harry, moving on to the next topic. Your thoughts on telephone techniques.
Ah, okay.
Because I believe that when we spoke about the marketing, at the end of the day, people who hear us from the radio, from Google, from social media, they will go to your website and eventually pick up your phone. And then share me a few thoughts about that.
So we've actually, we dedicate a seminar at our practice once every 3 months to nothing else but telephone training, okay?
Isn't
So
that amazing?
we go through
Wow.
this every 3 months on a Friday. We take every person, whether they do the sterilisation or the receptionist, we go through telephone technique. So we'll talk about somebody who's angry on the phone. How do you
Right.
handle anger?
Yes.
How do you handle compassion? How do you handle someone who has an emergency? We train people in the use of phrases, phraseology, techniques, voice imperfection. Being for an actor, I tell people how to raise and lower the voice, how to sound compassionate, how to sound empathetic. The importance of understanding what the patient needs when they call is so important. So I actually ring my practice probably 3, 4, 5 times a day, almost all year round. And people don't know that it's me ringing because I'll put on a voice. For example, I might call up and I say, hello, how you going? Is it possible to get a good appointment with a dentist today? And there's a girl there, Tanya, who's now trying to work out whether it's me or not. And she's going, yes, we have very good dentists here. We have an amazing selection of dentists here. In fact, one of my favourite dentists here is a guy called Dr. Harry. You might know him. I said, it's me. She said, I knew it was you, right? So we do this training. I do this sort of interactive technique where I go in. I told you about my story when I went to a practice to look at their culture to see what's going on. So if I ring up and I hear someone not answer the phone with a smile on their voice, They are met by me the following day and given a little bit of a talking to, right? So you know that if you answer the phone, hello, how are you? Good afternoon, East Bentley Dental Group. That sounds better than good afternoon, East Bentley Dental Group. So we spent a lot of time understanding voice inflection, voice direction, and throwing your voice as well. Because one of the other things I do, I'm a ventriloquist, okay? So I have puppets and I do puppet shows. So you have to learn how to talk through a closed mouth. Training people in answering the phone to describe what the patient needs is the single most important thing you can do on a day-to-day basis.
Isn't that phenomenal? Few takeaways if I could summarize. I mean, I love listening to you, Dr. Harry, and sharing so much. Just to summarize what I've picked up from Dr. Harry's wisdom there was, A, that he has strategies on answering different kind of phone calls, including new patient phone calls or just regular phone calls with people who are angry or sourcing some kind of information. But your teams need to be trained in different strategies, which sets you apart from other clinics.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Point of difference.
Right, point of difference, as Dr. Harry calls it. And the second thing I loved what he just said was that how he keeps on training their team. It's not just a one-stop training. Nope. Every couple of months, 2 to 3 months, Dr. Harry keeps on training, reserves some time out and keeps training the team. And the last, as he ended in the last way, this is one of the most important skill he has employed in his practice. And also number 3, training your teams in what we call tone inflection. Tone, because in phone calls, your patients cannot see you, but they can sense and feel you. And it's all to do with your tone.
Totally.
And isn't that amazing that just breaking that down for every dentist to understand that your teams need to be trained in this. Not only trained in what to say and how to say it, but also how to inflect and inflict your tone.
And they need to understand that if somebody's calling up and they're crying on the phone, you know, and they're saying, look, I'm really scared of going to the dentist, that sort of thing, you need someone who, and I train them to be actors, and I say to them, look, you say to that person, look, I know how you feel. I used to be the same. I used to feel very much the same. And use that voice so that I can identify with you.
Yes.
Right? If you use
empathy.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's in the tone of voice. It's the level of the voice. They understand that you are reaching out to them.
Correct.
Okay? You're meeting them. Yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, just picking back on that, what Dr. Harry says is not only the strategy, but how to train your teams into modulating their tone in different kind of situations. And lastly, I just wanted to end that particular topic by what Dr. Harry shared amazingly is that don't only keep on training your teams, but how do you know that your teams are not executing this effectively? So monitoring them. So Dr. Harry made this comment that he sometimes calls his practice to find out regularly how the team is performing. So all these things matter, and I really encourage every dental practice owners to take this subject of telephone techniques and telephone answering seriously, because from my statistics and my point of view, when I've been coaching a lot of practices, I believe that about 60% of new patient telephone calls are not converted to appointments.
No.
And that is really high. So take this moment, take this moment to just think about that and what you are going to do to help your teams trained on answering the telephone in the best possible way.
And one thing that we've done, Kennard, Dr. Kennard, which you might even consider, is we have 7 receptionists on a day-to-day basis. And what I've trained them to do, that if they get a phone call from someone who's anxious, and that particular girl that we have answering the phone says, you know, she doesn't normally handle the anxious people. She says, look, just take a minute. I'm going to go and get Rosemary. I want you to talk to her. And Rosemary is one of those very empathetic people who knows how to talk to anxious people. Yes. Then we've got another girl there called Dawn, and she's a bit hilarious and a bit funny. Yes. And she's more, hi, it's Dawn. Oh, you want to come and say, you're going to have such fun here today. So we have different people strategizing different phone calls. Yes. But you need to train that into your business, okay? Yes. You've got to have people who say, look, we've got someone on the phone who's highly anxious, get Rosemary. This person here sounds a bit uppity, let's get Dawn. You understand what I'm saying? You need horses for courses. Yeah.
Fascinating. Just having a variety of front team, your front line of team to answer all these different kind of personalities, as we call it, and inquiries over the phone. Thank you so much, Dr. Harry,
because
for
you
sharing
reach people, don't you agree, Dr.
Of course, of course.
You reach people.
So the next thing I wanted to lead into was, as we know that once we do get the patients booked in through the telephone calls, now we're waiting for them to arrive at our practice. So I talk about this subject called giving 7-star service. Yeah. And I really wanted your opinion on What have you done to implement that sets you apart in the 7-star way from other practices? Could you share some tips for
Oh,
us?
I'd love to. I'd love to. One of the things that we do is we make sure that we identify the person that's coming in. So if we know it's an anxious person, we have a couple of people ready to receive them as they get there, right? Now, of course, you have people that are away on days that are sick, whatever, but we usually have spare people to fill in. So the first thing that has to happen is that they have to be identified and greeted, and every receptionist that meets somebody stands up and greets them at eye level. They don't
Wow.
sit behind the
Yes.
desk and look like this, okay?
Yes.
Because you know what that feels like? What am I doing here? You know, so
Correct.
they stand up and they greet them, and they greet them warmly. And until the Conan virus came, we used to shake hands.
Yes.
Now we're not so sure, okay? So everybody gets greeted at
Yes.
eye level. They get greeted in, how would you like us to address you? Because some people don't want to be called Julie. They want to be called Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, some people want to know, do you take insurance? So we offer that as well. The third and fourth thing that we do is say, are you comfortable sitting here, or would you like to go to a private room? Because some people are very anxious about sitting in a waiting room. So we have another room set aside, which is very, very quiet, with music playing and a little tea and coffee machine. And we have someone in there who's called a critical care nurse, and she'll sit there and talk to people for a few minutes, okay? So that's another level. A final level is we have another level for little kids. So there's a little area put aside with toys and a trained nurse, a maternal care nurse, so she can take care of people. So there are all levels of, also all things for all people, Kinar. Dr. Kinar, you've got to be able to prepare people to receive them at their level. Now there are some people who are going to come in who are going to be very bossy. I want to be seen now. You know, my appointment was 11 o'clock. You're absolutely right, Mr. Smith. Let me go and see how far Doctor is, and I'll tell him that you're waiting, you need to be somewhere else. So every point of every minute, somebody has to be addressed at some sort of level. Now, I'm going to take it to another level for you. This may sort of shock you or surprise you. I hope it doesn't, but if it's interesting, I'll share this with you. There are two girls who know how to treat people who are a little bit edgy, okay? So, for example, we have, we'll just call her Smithy, okay? And Smithy gets rung up and said, there's someone down here you better see. So she comes downstairs, and this person's being a little bit aggressive, a bit pronto, a bit this sort of thing. And she'll walk in and say, hello, you're Mr. Caruso? Yes. Mr. Caruso, do you like good whiskey? And the guy will say, pardon? Did you like good whiskey? Yes. Would you like to have a whiskey before we see you, right? And you go, I've never been offered whiskey at a dentist before. I said, well, you are now, right? So she takes them upstairs, and we have a supply, right?
Yes.
And we give them we don't drink ourselves, but they do. And I say, you know, this is amazing. This is really good. And then we have another level where we take people who are coming in for consultations, extended consultations, and we take them to my area, okay, and we have some of my wine, which I make there. We've opened it, we've got some olives and crackers and cheese, and we said, why don't you just sit for a while, read the paper, listen to some music, and I'll go and get Doc and he can come and talk to you here. So for the very, very anxious people, we have what's known as the quiet room.
Oh,
And music is played at a very low level.
right.
And then we speak like this.
Very quiet.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, thank you for sharing that.
Ah,
That was
you're
interesting there. We always learn from guests on our show, and today Dr. Harry has shown his ways of how to give 7-star customer service. Let's move on to the next topic. Doc, I just wanted to kind of bring you to the attention that once that happens, once the patient comes in and we wow them in every possible way, and there are a lot of techniques we can do to in every step, as you said, the next step is they're actually going to go and see the dentist now. So I like to call this particular strategy case conversion or case consultation to conversion. As we know that once again in university, we were never trained to influence or persuade positively a patient to choose treatment. And there are a lot of dentists who are finding it hard. I mean, I believe that most dentists can easily convert low-end treatment, which someone comes in pain, someone comes with a broken tooth. But what about someone, nowadays people are looking for veneers, for Invisalign, for implants, for clear aligners, for bigger treatments, full mouth rehabs. And I believe that that's a chapter where a lot of dentists are struggling. They're skilled to do those clinical work, but they're failing to convert the patient or getting the patients to choose them. Now, could you share a few tips and tricks on how to, for our audience, on how they can improve in this subject?
I'd love to. I instituted something 15 years ago called the Dental Dream.
Right, okay.
And this was the training method that I used for my dentists that were joining me to grow the practice. And I said, I want you to learn the dental dream. And I'll give you one example. I said, I want you to take a minute when that person comes in to understand what their dental dream is. Because everybody coming to a dental practice has an expectation. What is it? They all want perfect teeth. They all want perfect teeth and they don't want to spend any money, correct? Oh, sometimes they do. So I train people in what I used to call the dental dream. I'll give you an example of how that works, okay? So let's just take a lady comes in, she's Greek, doesn't matter what nationality she is, she was this particular person, she's very overweight, her skin looks terrible, and I sat down, I said to her, Maria, why are you here? She said, well, I was referred by my friend. She said she heard you, that you were very kind and very considerate. I said, so what is the dental dream? So she had to look at her teeth. Dr. Kinner, they were disgusting. They were terrible. They were absolutely atrocious. Her skin was terrible. She was very much overweight. And I said, Maria, what is your dream? And she said to me with tears in her eyes, she said, Harry, I want to look good. I want to feel good. I want to look feminine. I want to look pretty again. Can you do that for me? So I had a look at her and I said, yes, we can do that. So let's cut to the chase. We took x-rays, photographs, this. We spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke. She had a couple of Turkish coffees while we were talking, right? And we spoke and we spoke. And she said, so what are you going to do? I said, look, Maria, I'll tell you what. I said, it's 9:30 in the morning. I'm sure you have to go to work. Why don't you go to work, come back tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock. I'll have some food and some drinks set up. Bring your husband if you want to. She said, I don't want to bring him. I don't like him. Okay? I said, okay, that's fine. So she come back the next day. And what I'd done is I'd done a photographic mock-up of how she's going to look when we do what we did. And I proposed to her 13 or 16 implants and a full reconstruction, right? A $65,000 treatment plan. And she looked at it, and I'd shown her what she'd look like when it was finished, and she said, sign me up, okay? Now this was a woman who worked as a Tats Lotto assistant. She didn't have a lot of money. She had a minimal amount of money. A year and a half later, she had lost 35 kilos. Her skin was clear. Her smile was fantastic. Her body was amazing. She felt feminine. She looked good. Her life was better. She felt happier. She felt more confident. She left her husband, got a younger boyfriend, and here you go, okay? So how do you go about selling or convincing people? You understand their ethos. Yes. When you understand a person's ethos, you know what to deliver. You can deliver their dental dream. For example, a man who comes in wearing dirty shorts and a dirty singlet and bother boots. Do we judge a book by its cover? You and I don't. You and I don't. But the vast majority of dentists say this guy won't want conservative dentistry. Yeah. He's not interested, right? Look at how he looks. And I have a guy like that who I saw about 25 years ago, right? Who now is fully reconstructed. You know, he spent about then $30,000 on getting it done because I said to him, Mark, what do you want? He said, just make me feel and look good. I want to be human again, not this. Yeah. So you understand people's ethos. The money is never a problem if you deliver what the dream is all about. Am I right?
Fantastic.
Am I right?
Fantastic.
Deliver the dream. Deliver a dream, people will follow that dream.
Fantastic. Once again, I hope you guys took note of just what was intensely shared, which was, the bottom line was Dr. Harry was sharing that get the dental dream out from the person. And the way to do that is by asking the right questions, right? By, just showing them what is possible. So one of the things Dr. Mary mentioned is that he had this thing ready to show them what is possible, right? And at the end of the day, when you have the ability to convert cases, you can make a difference in people's life. I mean, there are so many people out there that it is not just the dental work we are doing. We're actually changing people's life. May it be confidence, may it be their ability to go out and make a difference to other people. But generally, when we as dental professionals can help do that. So one of the biggest takeaway for this chapter is actually from, and what I got inspired by Dr. Harry was that don't think of this that you're doing dentistry. Think of it is that you're changing people's lives.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Exactly. Yeah. So unleash their dental dream. So Dr. Harry, let's move on to the next piece of advice you could share with the audience, which would be, once we've seen the patient, of course, and let's imagine that we have converted them, but of course you're then handing over the patient to your team to do what we call treatment coordination. Now, this is an important stage because at this stage, we talk about finance options. And so I wanted your opinion on this particular subject of should we as dentists offer finance options and how important is that?
Absolutely and extremely important.
Okay.
Absolutely and extremely important. And 35, 40 years ago, when none of the current situations existed, I went to the Commonwealth Bank and arranged personal loans for people. That's how invested I was in my business.
Wow.
Okay?
Okay.
I would go to the bank, I'd organise a $1,000 personal loan, which I'd be guaranteed for. I wouldn't do it today, but that's what I did then. Today we are a lot more open to do that. So how do I go about it? I went and discussed this with a number of people in high finance, in big banking, and they said, you know what you need to do? Hire someone from the stockbroking industry or an accountant, or better still, a high school teacher. A high school teacher. So I went to a couple of high schools in my area and I spoke to the accounting teachers in these high schools and I said, look, I want to offer you an interesting job. And I told them what it was. I said, we're going to do the handover to you where you'll discuss finance and treatment coordination. I got two of the most sophisticated women come and work for me, ex-high school teachers who now do the handover. And this is the way it works at our place. So let's say one of my doctors, we'll just call him Dr. Sam, he's just discussed a $65,000 implant case. He then takes the patient down to the quiet room. Nicole comes in and she'll say, can I get you something to eat or drink? No, that's fine. And she will sit quietly with no noise, no distractions, no mobile phones, and she'll discuss finance options with that patient. So, you know, we use some of the conventional ones that are out there and we use some of the other ones. We're getting a lot of requests now for people to use their super funds, which is interesting to do that. So that happens then and there. Those sorts of things are put in place, the finance is taken care of, and then we go forward. We have a second lady, we'll just call her Evelyn, okay? And she discusses the very big Saturday morning cases. Now, I was always one who was opposed to Saturday morning. I said, if you're going to be a dentist, Monday to Friday is fine. But what we found is we were running out of space. We were that busy to do the general anaesthetic sedation cases. And these can often be, Dr. Ganar, a $20,000 or a $30,000 case, you know, as you know. So what we found is that Evelyn would come in and say, look, you're a busy person. Why don't we do this as a general anaesthetic on Saturday morning? We can come in, we'll spend 3 or 4 hours doing your work, and it's all paid for, and it's done, and it's over, and then you come back 3 weeks later and we'll put it all in. So financing and options and the treatment coordination and getting that done is vital, and it has to be done in an atmosphere of conviviality and humour and good nature, and it's got to be done then and there. So we do not allow, and we never have allowed, I'll go away and think about it.
Yes.
Because go away and think about it becomes no treatment.
No treatment,
Okay?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing that taking a few points away from Dr. Harry there, that your team needs to be trained in this area. Once again, personally, I've been to a lot of practices and I've seen the same thing, Dr. Harry, which is they just wing it. They don't have a system or a strategy, as I call it, to handle this, the treatment coordination step. The second point I learned from Dr. Harry was do it in a quiet area, isolated from the front reception. We do understand that not every practice has the ability to do that. But if you can have some space, it's such an important part, because one of the biggest things that the patients spit out at this stage is, let me think about it. And do you lose the patient? They may have said yes to you in the consultation, in your consult, but then they say, let me think about it at the treatment coordination stage. So how is your team trained to handle that so it doesn't even happen in the first place, right? Am I right, Dr.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, if you go in to buy a Bentley, sorry to interrupt you, Dr.
Sure.
If you go in to buy a Bentley car, do you need to be sold that car? No, right? Why not? Because you've done your research. Or Bentley have done their research.
Yes.
And they know the sort of people that are coming in to buy.
Yes.
So dentists seem to miss that point, right? If you're trying to sell someone a $50,000 implant case and they know nothing about implants, what are your chances? Negative, right? What do we have to do? Educate the public to educate them about what we're selling. And the people that are selling the treatment plans and doing the finance have to be highly educated and highly trained. Correct? Yeah.
Correct. And once again, just adding to that last point, as Dr. Harry said, finance options, giving your patient the ability to pay it over time. We have so many options nowadays. Please make sure that you look into them and think about implementing them in your practice if you're not doing that already. We have seen Afterpay everywhere nowadays. There's a reason that this trend has picked up so much in this recently, much more recently. So please do look into that as well. So, Dr. Harry, the next question I really have for you, an interesting one. A single piece of advice to a young dentist who wants to open up shop.
Oh, God.
It's an interesting one.
You don't
right?
think we have anybody nearby listening, do you?
I wanted your advice on this.
Okay. The very first thing, and this is a common question that I'm asked, is first of all, do your market research. Okay, go and have a look at where you're going to go. The problem is that in the CBD, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, all the major areas, a lot of these areas are now oversaturated with dentists. Okay.
Yeah.
Second of all, go and do what I call a demographic survey.
Yeah.
Now, every dentist that I ever speak to about this, I say, someone said to me a few weeks ago, I'm going to go open up in Unigalabi. And I said, really? I said, have you been to the council? Why would I go to the council? Go and ask them, how many white-collar people live there? How many people have dental insurance? How many people have 2 cars? How many people are in 2 jobs? Do your market research. And most dentists, of course, look at you and they go, what? What's that? Right? Sounds like Lego to them, okay?
Yeah.
How do I put the Lego piece together? So the first piece of advice is do your market research. Don't go and open up a practice next door to a practice that has 17 dentists, 34 staff, right? And think you're going to be busy across the road, as 3 dentists just did in the last 3 months near me. Right?
Wow, okay.
Open up near me, 3 practices, and one of them rings me last Monday and says, hello, Dr. Harry. Yes, hello. He said, if you get any spare patients, can you send them to me? I mean, craziness. Do your market research. Second of all, look at your finance options. Third of all, what is your vision? Where are you going to be in 10 years' time?
Yes.
Where are you going to be in 15 years' time?
Yes.
And finally, of course, the biggest issue, which a lot of people ask me about, can I become a preferred provider? Forget it. It's over. They're not giving out licenses anymore, okay? So forget that. Market research, demographics, social infrastructure, finance, location, 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 and then what is your vision?
From the man himself, you know, really have high respect for Dr. Harry sharing this, because he's been in the industry in one of the longest successful periods of our times. And it's interesting that if anyone out there is looking into opening a practice, do reach out to some professionals, someone who's already done it. I like to call it model other people's success, and learn from them and ask them the right questions before you just dive in, making a mistake. A lot of dentists nowadays, Dr. Harry, making mistakes of opening a practice but not doing their market research, as Dr. Harry says. But also one of the factors I wanted to add there was many dentists are not considering their marketing budget.
Oh, yeah.
And which is very important, because they're looking at the price of buying a practice and setting up a practice, forgetting that they have to have a huge, reasonable, medium to huge marketing budget, because you do need marketing nowadays to attract a significant number of patients. Am I right, Dr. Harry?
Absolutely, 100%.
So, Dr. Harry, what the next question I have for you is, what does our future hold in our industry?
Okay, that's actually a marvellous question that you've just asked me, because at the moment, technology. It's all about the technology. When I graduated from dental school in 1972, we were still mixing amalgam, Dr. Kinnar, with our fingers.
Yeah.
We were using mercury in our fingers. Composite resin had to be mixed out of 2 jars. Sometimes it set, sometimes it didn't.
Yes.
Today, we have technology like you would not believe. Tomorrow, in fact, I'm going to Sydney to go and have a look at 2 new pieces of technology which are coming out, which are going to change the face of dentistry for the next 25 years, okay? Because what is now happening is dentists are now having to become oral physicians. And I suggest this respectfully to you as a teacher and an administrator and an educator. This is where I think we need to take the next generation of dentists. I mean, my time's just about up, but oral physicians are where we're going. And how will they do that? They'll need to become very much adept at understanding the new technology. What sort of technology are we talking about? We're going to be now charged with the responsibility of checking on people's inflammatory responses.
Yeah.
We are going to be asked to look at their inflammatory responses in terms of things. What? Implants. Why? Implantitis is now starting. Peri-implantitis is becoming a problem. We're going to be charged with the responsibility of dealing with what? Sjögren's syndrome, dry mouth. The amount of people having cancer treatment, the amount of chemotherapy, the people taking tranquilizers and sedatives with dry mouth, this is becoming an increasing problem. So the technology that will deal with this will be the forefront of where we're going with dentistry from now on. I believe that corporate practice is finished. I don't think that's got a future anymore. I think the consolidated single practice with multiple operators is the future, not corporate. And I believe that practices that take on the education standards of the sort of products that your organisation put out and the training that you offer are the future for dentistry. Without any of those three things, I don't think you're going to survive in this industry for very much longer.
Well, isn't that amazing where Dr. Harry shares technology is one thing that our future of dentistry, our future of our field is leading towards. So most of us, we keep in touch with our technology, but I find a lot of dentists not investing in technology. So please make sure, have an inventory of what you're surrounded by on a daily basis. Dentistry is moving to a pace, if you may agree with this, Dr. Harry, where the public wants it faster and more effective and more predictable results, and we need to, and we have technologies that are super coming up in our times, and we need to look into this, learn them, adapt to them, and adopt to them, as you say.
Totally.
Dr. Harry?
You can't practice today properly the high level of dentistry without CBCT, without scanning, without all, and these new technologies which are coming out just now, I mean literally right now, are going to be the next 5 to 10 years, and this is just going to expand our vistas beyond even my wildest imagination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent share, Dr. Harry. Excellent share. So, Dr. Harry, one question. I wanted to really know one tough decision you have made in your life regarding your business, or like a courageous decision that you had to take.
You know, such a fantastic question, and it's lovely talking to a gentleman like yourself who's made tough decisions and had to go.
We all have.
We've all had. The toughest decision I had to make was the one that no dentist ever wants to hear, and that is, I don't want to be a dentist anymore, okay? I did not want to be a dentist. I've never, for the last 20 years, I did not actually want to be a dentist. So the toughest decision I had to make, and it was a smart decision, was don't be the dentist. Let other dentists who love being dentists be dentists, and you run a business, okay? Now, when I go and I talk about this at ADA meetings, or I don't go to ADA meetings anymore, but I go to dental meetings, people say, no, what are you talking about? Oh, I'm a dentist, you know, I'm a dentist. The toughest decision I had to be was to step back and become a business person, as you are, and let dentists who want to be dentists. That was it. The second thing was not to use my own money. To learn how to use other people's money, and not in a ridiculous way, but in a way where you leverage. Leverage, Dr. Kinnard. That is the future if you want to be in a business. So the toughest decision I think I had to make was to step back from the tools and to become a business person. But happily, I look back now, 25, 28 years later, best decision I ever made.
Excellent. The word to take away from there is leverage. I love that word, leverage, because in this industry, to grow, step up and stand out, we need to leverage to be successful in what we're building. Coming to the final questions, Dr. Harry, I know you're an avid reader. Share with me one of the last books you have read.
What a surprise, I just happen to have one with me. No, I'm a lover of this particular book. I'm actually very graciously, you sent it to me. What I said to you when I arrived today was thank you first of all for sending it to me, but you know what you have done here is amazing. You have given people inspiration. You have given people direction. You have given people a step-by-step methodical approach at all levels, how you have to look at your business and to grow your dream dental practice in a step-by-step manner. It's inspiring, it's knowledgeable, it's factual, and the last chapter is the one that really grabbed my attention, where you said, well, this is the last chapter, but it's not really about the last chapter. You said, and I love it, you said, I want to inspire you to grow and to develop and to become more mindful, and you're very good at that, I must say.
Yeah.
So this is the last book that I've just read. In fact, I've read it twice in the last 48 hours.
48 hours.
And I highly recommend it. If you haven't got it yet, get it now. Okay.
Dr. Harry, you're too kind. That was a bit of a
great
staged
book.
question.
No,
Dr. Harry.
not at all.
But no, thank you so much for 48 hours. He's read it twice. I didn't believe it was that great, but actually,
no, it is. I've got it in the car with me.
I put a lot of time and effort because one of my passions was to guide dentists, as you do, Dr. Harry, just in getting the mindset right and what is required to build a successful practice. So if you haven't got a copy, please download it, message me, and I can show you how to download it.
It's very well illustrated too.
Thank you for that, Dr. Harry. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We had Dr. Harry sharing so much wisdom with us. I really wanted to thank you, Dr. Harry, for joining us today on this show, in the Dentrepreneurs TV show. I wanted to let everyone know one of the famous quotes I go by, which is, one day or day one. It's up to you to start thinking about not only investing on your business, but investing in yourself to become and bring the best out of you. So here we go, guys. We will keep bringing you more guests on our show. Today we were very much privileged to have Dr. Harry, a super successful dentist, share his wisdoms, his tips, his strategies, tricks, how he has built what he has built so successfully. Once again, Dr. Harry, thank you so much. From the team at Dentrepreneurs TV, from all of us, from the audience, I just wanted to wish you all the best. And please, please, please keep inspiring us, keep helping us, we love what you do. And just wanted to take one last moment to say that I'm privileged to have a friend such as you.
Me too.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
So once again, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Please do reach out to me, to Dr. Harry. If you ever need any help, we are here to help you. Also, one of the things I want to leave you with is each one, teach one, keep being out there, keep helping others. We are a community where we can help each other. Dentrepreneurs TV here, signing out. Take care, everybody.